At the entrance to Exhibit Hall 16 can be found a spiral staircase, which leads to exhibit halls in the semi-basement. The height of the hall, as well as of the museum as a whole, corresponds to that of a two-story building. Attached to the ceiling are grand chandeliers made of decorative glass and reflectors directed towards the exhibits. Two big windows with wooden frames flank the hall on the left and on the right. In the center of the hall is situated a stained glass window, made in 1904 by the artist Leopold Moquet, owner of an artistic stained glass atelier in the city of Odessa. During the museum restoration that took place in 2022, the initial structure of said window had not undergone any changes. Between the big windows and the stained glass, two mural paintings can be found, which thematically complete the wedding and horror exhibitions, respectively. The hall floor is made of terracotta tiles with geometric ornaments in an oriental style, similar to the ornaments on the window frames. The first exhibition, entitled Casa Mare, is arranged at the entrance to the hall, on the left and on the right. Traditionally, Casa Mare, literal translation of big house, is a room in the abode similar to a living room, where, according to Romanian tradition, the most important events in the life of each family took place. Casa Mare is a spacious, clean, and beautifully furnished room, one of the main rooms of the traditional house in the Romanian space, decorated with the best fabrics, pieces of furniture, and commemorative objects. Unlike the living room, it was not intended for living and had no heating system. The most important function of Casa Mare was to host the most significant ceremonies in a person's life, including the birth, enrolling in the army, marriage, and death. Other events, including holidays, Christmas, Easter, Patrons' Days, etc., were also hosted in this room. Casa Mare, from the exhibition of the National Museum of Ethnography and Natural History, is an imitation of the room from the Cochin area, from the 20s of the 20th century, when some changes and modernizations took place in the traditional peasant interior, brought by wealthier peasants from fairs, furniture, tableware, clothing, etc. It should be noted that almost all the items in this exhibition were collected from the Cochin area. Conventionally, two exhibition complexes are organized: Zestra, meaning dowry, exhibition complex on the right, and the festive table, exhibition complex on the left. Around these themes, we discover the richness and diversity of the cultural possessions accumulated by the family over the years. The first complex includes the exhibits related to the family dowry. When arranging the space of Casa Mare, certain traditions were to be respected, which were also followed in arranging the exhibition. On the surface of the main wall, a decorative rug specific to the Cochin area is arranged, ornamented with stylized plant motifs in which the ear of wheat can be found. At the entrance to the exposition can be found a drenitsar and a chest for the dowry. Until the arrival of wardrobes, festive clothes, shirts, headscarves, and handkerchiefs were hanged on clothing bars or drenitsare, so they would not crumble. Drenitsarul is a horizontal wooden bar connected with two extensions to the ceiling and covered with a sheet to keep off dust. Next to the decorative rug is a wooden divan called kanapka in the Stefan Vode area. Next to it is a cupboard to store the tableware for festivities. Captivating and imposing due to the number of fabrics is the dowry chest, which includes the main fabrics intended to decorate the future house of the to-be-weds: simple carpets, woolen carpets, small wall carpets, and thick woolen, hem, or cotton blankets or rugs, sackcloths, reed fabric, and veretka, thick fabric made of wool for blankets. Rounding out the dowry exhibition are several hand-stitched quilts, 4 large pillows, and 2 small pillows. The size of the dowry would depend on the number of daughters, their social status and material status of the family, the diligence and expertise of the housewife, and the contribution of the girls in its preparation. Depending on the nature of the dowry, villagers would call it house of plenty, house with 2 rows of dowry, or bountiful house. The sunrise part of the Casa Mare is reserved for the sacred corner with religious icons and other ritual objects. Most of the time, the icon had the face of the family patron saint, serving as the house's protector. Next to the icon, the wax crown and wedding bouquets of the householders were kept. Here was also found the hallowed basil and the candle, which was lit on holidays. On Christmas Eve, the sacred bread, called crăciunel, was also placed near the icon, and was kept there until the day of St. George, when it was broken into crumbs and given to the animals, with the belief that they would stay healthy the rest of the year. This holy corner is decorated with cotton or silk towels, woven, picked, or embroidered. On the left side of the exhibition complex is arranged the other half of Casa Mare. In the middle is a rectangular table with cylindrical legs, with embedded decorative motifs, covered with a woven cotton tablecloth with a knot in the middle, and ornamented all across the edges with crocheted lace. Relatives and family members gathered at this table for the celebrations across the year. Against the wall is a white chair called an oslon, with a back, covered with a striped wool carpet called lecher. According to tradition, the steps before the wedding took place in the Casa Mare: the proposal, the engagement, and the answer, as well as the planning of the future wedding. In times past, weddings took place in Casa Mare as well, the only guests being the closest family members. The banquet after the baby's baptism, with the godparents and witnesses, was also organized in Casa Mare, and all other customs relating to this event were carried here as well. Casa Mare would serve the family in times of joy and sorrow. Here they would sing, pray, and grieve. After the family children were married off, the housewife would begin preparing the necessary items for her husband's and her own eventual memorial service, the so-called funeral dowry. In the funeral dowry are kept simple carpets, woolen blankets, woolen carpets, wall carpets, towels, 24 embroidered funeral towels, tablecloths, desage, which are handmade bags, batiste and basmale, headkerchiefs, and ritual flag knots. The items prepared for the funeral were not used, but were kept for the funeral party of the deceased, and when someone in the family had died, house members would open the funeral chest and prepare the items to be gifted, as tradition demands. Often, the elderly women of those times would write to whom and what to give as alms. These testimonies were strictly respected by the relatives. Both the marriage ceremony with wedding banns and dowries, as well as the funeral ritual with so-called bridge alms and burial cloths, were subject to critical analysis by the rural community. Those present would draw conclusions about the life lived and man-served purpose. Taking into account the amount and quality of the gifts given, the villagers would determine whether the family had indeed honored the deceased and would appreciate the social status of the remaining family members, their level of knowledge and respect for tradition. Casa Mare is an examination of sorts for the hard-working housewives in the eyes of the villagers, when they would step through its threshold for wedding ceremonies, funerals, and family celebrations. The National Museum of Ethnography and Natural History has a rich collection of woolen fabrics. In the hall, traditional wall rugs and carpets from different areas of the country are presented. They are woven on looms in a vertical and horizontal manner, with threads of wool, hair, cotton, hemp, and decorated around the center and on the border frame with various geometric, floral, and vegetal motifs: the tree of life, the ear of wheat, the rose, the rhombus, the zigzag, etc. These textiles are arranged above the display windows that represent Casa Mare.